Immediately after, Jaga and Kola sprayed the evil charm and opened the coffin. They began bickering like two hungry dogs over a single bone about who would first sleep with the corpse of the queen. Their heated argument filled the cold, eerie room when suddenly the queen's eyes snapped open. She stared at them with a fiery rage that could melt iron. The queen, known far and wide for her quick temper and zero tolerance for nonsense, shot upright and backed. "Who are you people, and how did I get here?" Jaga and Kola froze, their faces as white as ghosts. They were ready to sprint for their lives, but they hesitated when they realized the queen was very much alive. Jaga and Kola, still trembling, decided to ask the queen some questions. Their hearts pounded like drums in their chest as they tried to make sense of the surreal situation. The queen, her mind a foggy haze, couldn't recall how she ended up in the hospital. She only remembered having a slice of orange the night before she slept. "The only thing I remember is the slice of orange I had before I slept," she said, her voice sharp with a mixture of anger and frustration. The memory dangled just out of reach, like a shadow at the edge of her consciousness, teasing but not revealing itself fully. As she struggled to piece together her memory, she continued, and she paused, her brow furrowed in concentration. Suddenly her eyes widened with realization, like a storm breaking over a calm sea. "I was the Queen of P. The King of P isn't the rightful owner of the throne. I know his secret, that's why she trailed off, the truth hanging heavy in the air like a dense fog. I guess that's why he put me here," she finished, her voice tinged with both fear and determination. Jaga and Kola exchanged bewildered glances. The room seemed to grow colder as the weight of the queen's words settled over them. They had stumbled into a mystery far greater than they had bargained for, and the shadows of the past were closing in around them. She began to narrate the full story to Jaga and Kola, her voice carrying them back in time like a river flowing through the memories of the past. In the village of PMA, she started, her eyes distant. There was a man named Bara. Bara was one of the servants of young King Lora, a king who had no queen. Bara, being the head of the servants, had access to many things in the palace and was somewhat close to the king. His loyalty was unquestionable and his service was impeccable, but also had a sister who served in the palace alongside him, tending to the needs of King Lora, and is called the queen's voice grew softer, tinged with wit. Sao Bola's sister was a kind and gentle soul, loved by all who knew her. She brought warmth to the cold stone walls of the palace with her laughter and kindness. Little did Bola know that their lives were about to be shattered by the very man they served so faithfully. Jaga and Kola listened intently, the room growing quieter with each word as the queen's tale of loyalty, betrayal and dark secrets unfolded. King Lora was a tyrant. He had a cruel habit of taking any female servant he fancied, having sex with them without regard for their will. One fateful day his vile desires fell upon Bola's sister. He forced himself on her, his brutality knowing no bounds, and in a savage act he mistakenly killed her. During the hard sex, the king always committed these heinous acts in secrecy, swearing the servants to silence under the threat of death. But this time his cruelty had crossed the line. Bola's sister died during the violent assault. King Lora, never having faced such a consequence before, panicked. He fled the scene and summoned Bola, ordering him to dispose of the girl's body in the deep forest. When Bola arrived and saw his sister lying lifeless in the king's room, he was devastated. Tears streamed down his face, but he quickly wiped them away, fearing the king's wrath if he discovered that the girl was Bola's sister. With a heavy heart and rage simmering beneath the surface, Bola carried his sister's body into the forest, vowing silently to avenge her death as Bola carried his dead sister through the dark twisted paths of the forest. His heart burned with a fiery resolve. The shadows of the trees seemed to whisper to him, echoing his oath for vengeance. He swore to bring justice to the king, even if it cost him his own life. His soul was consumed by a storm of rage and sorrow deep within the heart of the forest. The air grew thick and heavy with an otherworldly presence. The spirits of the forest, ancient and malevolent, sensed Bola's fury. They were drawn to his dark determination like moths to a flame. As Bora stumbled through the undergrowth, his foot struck something hard. He looked down and saw a gem glowing faintly in the moonlight night. The gem shimmered with an eerie light, pulsing with dark energy. Bora, driven by desperation and anger, reached out and grasped it. Instantly a surge of power surged through his veins, filling him with an otherworldly strength. The spirits of the forest whispered their secrets to him, granting him the ability to shape-shift and a deadly power, the ability to put people into a deep coma that could last for eternity unless another dark force intervened or Bola himself reversed it. With this newfound power, Bola felt invincible. He knew that his path to revenge had been set, and he would stop at nothing to see the tyrant king fall. The forest spirits had given him the tools he needed, and now it was time to use them. The night was alive with the promise of retribution, and Bola, now more than ever, was determined to fulfill his vow. Bola returned to the palace, now a powerful servant with a heart full of vengeance. His steps were silent, but his resolve was unbreakable. He went straight to King Laura, ready to enact his retribution. As he entered the dining hall, he found the king feasting on a meal prepared by the servant Abba. The king, engrossed in his gluttony, sent Abba to fetch a glass of wine seasoned. The moment Bola approached the king with a single thought, he activated his newfound power, and his form began to shift. His features melted and reformed until he was an exact duplicate of King Laura. The Ra king looked up, eyes widening in horror at the sight of his own doppelganger. He opened his mouth to scream, but before he could make a sound, Bola acted. Abba returned with the wine and froze in the doorway, her eyes darting between the two identical figures. The room crackled with tension as Bola locked eyes with the true king and unleashed the second power of the gem. A dark force enveloped the king, and his body slumped to the floor, plunged into a deep coma. Since Abba had witnessed the entire scene, Bola knew he had to act quickly to avoid being implicated. He attempted to use the same dark charm on her, but to his shock it failed. The charm, bound by the sinister rules of the spirits, could only be used once every 7 years. The spirits had conveniently omitted this crucial detail, delighting in the chaos they had sown. Realizing the charm's limitations, Bola, still in the form of King Laura, turned to Era. His voice was cold and menacing. You will say nothing of what you've seen here, Eba. If you breathe a word of this to anyone, I will kill you instantly. The threat hung in the air, as sharp and dangerous as a predator's fang. To ensure her silence and keep her close, Bora made a calculated promise. In return for your silence, I will make you the queen of Poma. He declared the offer was both a bribe and a trap designed to bind Abba to his will. Desperate and fearful for her life, Abba agreed. Together, under the cover of night, they carried the calm king into the depths of the far forest. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting in ghostly shadows. As they dug a grave, they buried King Laja alive, his true form hidden away from the world. A dark secret shared by only the two of them, with the real king Intmed and Abba sworn to silence. Bola solidified his grip on the throne. The palace and the kingdom at large were none the wiser. believing the deception that had taken root in their midst. Bola now, masquerading as King Laura, prepared to rule with a cunning and ruthless hand. While Abba, haunted by the knowledge of the truth, was drawn deeper into his web of lies and manipulation, Bob made a grand announcement declaring that Abba was to be the new queen. The kingdom celebrated, unaware of the dark truth behind this sudden change. Abba, adorned in royal garments, stood beside Bola, her eyes scanning the faces of the courtiers and servants. Despite her new title and knowing curiosity ate at her, who was the real king? The question lingered in her mind, refusing to be silenced. Abba, driven by this burning question, began her own quiet investigation. She observed Bo closely, noting his behaviors and habits, comparing them to what she knew of the real King Laura. She scoured the palace for clues, hoping to uncover the truth behind Bola's facade, but as time passed, her efforts yielded little, and the constant fear of Bola's wrath began to weigh heavily on her. Reluctantly, she abandoned her search, choosing to embrace her new life as queen. From a mere servant, Abba had risen to a position of power and luxury. She enjoyed the opulence and reverence that came with being queen, a stark contrast to her previous life. The palace, with its grand halls and lavish feasts, became her domain, and she relished the change in her fortunes. However, Bola's paranoia grew with each passing day. The knowledge that Abba knew his secret was a thorn in his side. Almost every night he attempted to use his dark power on her, hoping to silence her forever, but each attempt ended in failure. The charm, bound by its own rules, refused to work on Abba again so soon after its first use. Bola's frustration mounted, and he tried several times, each time failing to achieve his sinister goal. Despite his best efforts, Abba remained untouched by his dark powers, her presence a constant reminder of his deceit. Bola's discomfort grew, knowing that his secret was not entirely safe. Abba, though outwardly compliant, held a hidden strength and resilience that kept her alive and in her position. And so, under the glittering facade of the palace, a silent battle of wills played out between the false king and his queen, each holding their cards close to their chest, waiting for the next move in their dangerous game. After 7 long years, the original King Laura remained in a deep, unbroken coma, hidden away from the world. During this time, Bola had ruled the kingdom with an iron fist, his disguise as the true king fooling everyone except Era. She alone knew the truth, a secret that weighed heavily on both of them. The Yeti had been kind to Bola in terms of power and control, but the constant threat of his secret being exposed glared at him. The knowledge that Abba held the key to his downfall kept him on edge, a dark cloud over his reign. Every day, Bola's mistrust of Abba grew, knowing that her silence was the only thing keeping his Shirad alive. Though he had ascended to the throne and enjoyed the luxuries and respect that came with it, Bola could never fully relax. The fear of being discovered haunted him, making him more paranoid and ruthless. He ruled with a heavy hand, ensuring that no one dared to challenge his authority or dig too deeply into the past. Abba, on the other hand, played her part where she embraced her role as queen, her beauty and grace endearing her to the people, but beneath her composed exterior she harbored the dark knowledge of Bola's true identity. The memory of the real king, buried alive, never left her mind. It was a silent torment, a secret that bound her to Bola, yet also kept her distant from him. As the years passed, the uneasy truce between Bola and Abba held firm. Bola, constantly vigilant, kept a close eye on her, his trust in her never solidifying. He knew that the fragile peace they maintained could shatter at any moment, and the fear of retribution from the true king should he ever awakened loomed over him like a specter, and so the kingdom of Pma continued to flourish under the reign of a force king. The dark secrets of the past buried deep, waiting for the day they would inevitably resurface one night after Abba had finished drinking her orange. She prepared to retire for the evening. As she was about to drift off to sleep, Buck crept into her chambers, his heart pounding with malicious intent. This time he was determined to succeed where he had failed so many times before. He unleashed his dark power upon her and